On today's show, is the future doomed when it comes to the Phoenix Suns? Well, a bunch of ESPN experts, as talked about yesterday, think so. I'll tell you why that's not true. And draft picks, do the Suns really need them, or do they just make you feel better? Let's talk about that much more on this edition of Locked On Phoenix Suns.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up? Welcome back into Locked On Phoenix Suns. I am your host, Benjamin Garcia, host of the Ben Garcia Show mornings on YouTube, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 a.m., as well as a credentialed Suns media member covering your Phoenix Suns 365 days out of the year. Thank you for making Locked On Suns your first listen here on this beautiful Wednesday night, Thursday morning. Don't forget, Locked On Suns is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. So click that follow or subscribe button to do what thousands, dare I say millions, trillions, billions of Suns fans have already done. Become an everyday and get locked onto the Phoenix Suns right here each and every day. So yesterday I had my guy John Voight on, and we were discussing this list as put out by ESPN, and I went back and listened to that show. I go back and listen to pretty much every Locked On Suns show that I do, every show I do, period, whether it's for my own shows or this show or Cardinal Squad show, another show that I'm on, because I'm always trying to learn how to better improve and say, if I was an audience member, would I understood what he just said? And I thought I could have went a little bit deeper last night. You know, when John is on, we're trying to get his takes, his opinions, take a break from just me monologuing for 30 minutes. But I thought it'd be interesting to dive deeper into this ESPN top power rankings article for the future. And as mentioned yesterday, the Phoenix Suns came in at dead last. And it was as followed. It was only 3 years ago when the Phoenix Suns ranked third in FRP and had a solid foundation of young players and future draft picks and future draft assets. That foundation no longer exists thanks to Brad and Kevin Durant. Both players are no longer on the team, and though Phoenix is in financial purgatory and still has all-star Devin Booker, its path to relevancy is unclear. The Suns have no tradable first in the next 7 years and have $23 million in dead money on the books for the next 5 years. One positive is that Phoenix has shifted away from building around multiple high-priced veterans to trading in for former first-round picks, Jalen Green, Mark Williams, and selecting Kaman Malawach in June's draft, that being Bobby Marks. And for a couple of reasons, and we'll get to the draft in just a minute, but I don't think this is fair. This immediately. The Suns, out of 30 teams, were ranked 26th for players. I could name 4 teams right off the bat. The Hornets, the Wizards, the Pelicans, the Kings. None of them have a player as good as Devin Booker. And so I think it's nuts that the Phoenix Suns are ranked 26th out of 30 teams in terms of players. That was one category on this list. In money, they were 22nd. In draft, they were obviously 30th. Market, 6th. And management, 28th. We can get to those things in a minute. But when I look at some of these other teams ahead of the Suns, the Pelicans, the Kings, the Hornets were just behind them, the Trailblazers, the Bucks. The Phoenix Suns already have a decent roster just because Devin Booker is there. And that makes me want to dive even deeper into the Suns roster. This is where Positive Ben comes out. And I know you guys love listening and talking to Positive Ben on a daily, night in, night out basis. This Suns roster is better than it was last season. And I know my guest yesterday disagreed with that, but it just is. The top heaviness of it is not there, no. Kevin Durant is not here anymore. Bradley Beal is not here anymore. I could understand the addition by subtraction for Bradley Beal. And that being for this reason. Bradley Beal, emotionally, sometimes available, physically, almost never available. And so just getting him off the team might make the things around them better because we know what to better expect. Bradley Beal, it truly was a wild card. Kevin Durant, you lose him. That just sucks. Top 10 basketball player of all time. You traded him for the best package that you could get back. And so, you lose Kevin Durant. But player 4 through 15 on this roster is just the same or better than what the Suns had last year. And so I don't think it's fair because Kaman Malawach is a top 10 pick in the NBA draft. Rasheer Fleming should have been a first-round pick. And the Suns have other players like Grayson Allen that could shoot the three ball, and Devin Booker, who's an elite level scorer, one of the most efficient ISO scorers in the NBA. And this list has only 4 other teams behind them, 27, 28, 29, 30. Just 4 other teams behind them. And so I just can't buy that. This Suns roster, if anything, has an actual identity to it. Last year, the identity was just talent. And what did I say to you guys just a few days ago? An identity cannot be, we're just really good at basketball. There's only like 2 teams ever that have just said, our identity is, we're just better than you. The Warriors with KD was kind of like that. And the Bulls years ago were kind of just like that. And I guess the Celtics years ago, before my father was even born. But talent isn't an identity. The Suns have done more than just put a team together. There's an actual soul, construct, and an identity to this team. We're going to play hard. We're going to play physical. And the pieces around each other actually make sense. Jalen Green, if he turns out to be what everyone in my Suns Locked On comment section says, the Suns go from being one of the worst teams in the NBA futures-wise to immediately top 5. I have my concerns about Jalen Green. We don't need to get into those. I've done it numerous times. But I can buy into the idea he's going to, completely prove me wrong. Just completely prove me wrong. He has that much talent to do so. I might worry about some of the things I've seen in the past, but he's uber athletic. I believe he could get more efficient with the 3, and I think he's going to be a plus defender this year. The Suns roster isn't the biggest deal with this team. And then that brings me to my next point. Market. The Suns came in at 6th market-wise in the NBA. That's about right, but it feels a little low. And that brings me to this point. The Suns will never be the worst team in the NBA because of how attractive their market is. Phoenix is an amazing place to be, potentially the best place to be in the freaking world during the United States wintertime. Or at least, obviously it's not everywhere in the world is on the same, wavelength when it comes to seasons. But in the United States, Phoenix is one of the best places to be during basketball season. Do you want to know why? Because the high every day is 73 and sunny. You don't have to worry about shoveling out your driveway. You know who has a hard time getting people there? Charlotte, Washington, Brooklyn, those teams. They can't get stars there. Phoenix has never had that issue. They just won Bradley Beal over for nothing, which seemed to be a steal at the time, and got Kevin Durant here. He wanted to come here. Phoenix will always be a prime destination. And so that on its own will make them one of the better franchises in basketball. And then that also brings me to the other thing as well. I think the Suns market is maybe a little bit better than that. But right now, the management is at 28th. And I think that's the only thing on this list that feels about fair. And the reasoning why I'll say that is because I like the direction that the Phoenix Suns have been going in this category, 28th. I like the direction the Phoenix Suns have been going. And I really like the Suns offseason. In my wildest imagination, dreams, I would have never guessed the Suns were going to be this interesting going into the season. But this is why when I give a Jalen Green take, I'll admit when I was wrong. And right here, I'll admit where I was wrong. Suns are in a pretty good spot, all things considered, for this roster. And I got to give the Suns general manager credit for that. And same with the head coach. It feels pretty stable in Brian Gregory and Jordan Nott and a little bit Matt Ishbia. But that's the one thing that I just can't argue. It just hasn't been enough time that has passed to allow someone like me to say, well, this management deserves to be graded better. Because right now they just don't. But I think that could get fixed too. And ultimately, it just leads me to believe that this list it's a bunch of phooey. The Suns this time next year will not be ranked in the same spot because their roster is better than people think. Their management, I think, is getting better. And the market will always be with a capital A, one of the premier destinations to go to in basketball. Because Phoenix, during the wintertime, is a freaking great place to be. With that being said, one more rant on draft capital and as well as Jonathan Kuminga. And we'll do that next. First, today's show is brought to you by my friends over at 5 Hour Energy. Listen, I don't know if you've had one of these, but these things are freaking delicious. 5 Hour Energy. Time to fuel up and turn it up with 5 Hour Energy Transfusion. The grape, ginger, and lime flavored shot brings the iconic taste of a golf course favorite to a non-alcoholic boost. Perfect for sinking birdies or making great memories with friends. It's a hole-in-one for your energy game. Whether you're out on the course or just need a little extra push to power through your day, 5 Hour Energy Transfusion delivers the clubhouse flavor you love without ever leaving the green. What I got to say about, for me, when it ties to golf and 5 Hour Energy, I told you guys just this past couple weeks ago, I had my fantasy football annual get together with my buddies. I see all my closest friends once a year, and we do our fantasy football draft, and we stayed up way too late Friday night, knowing damn good and well we had a tea time Saturday morning. And what did I have to do? I stayed up to like 2 a.m. I'm 27 now. It hits me a little bit harder. I woke up at 8 a.m. I'm tired. I pound one of these 5 Hour Energies. Boom. Solid, no crash. Felt great through my entire golf course run with my buddies. So golf is all about good times with good people and good flavors. The grape, ginger, lime flavor of the 5 Hour Energy Transfusion gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go to without leaving the course or chasing down the beverage cart. Now you can amp up the fun even more. Just buy, snap, and enter for a chance to win a dream golf course or a dream golf trip for 2 to any golf tournament in the USA. Tee up that trip. Visit 5hewin.com for full rules and entries. No purchase necessary. Excludes the Masters tournament. Ends Halloween of 2025. Now, this is where serious Stern Ben has to come in the picture. And I've got to talk to you face to face, mano y mano, and talk to you guys about draft capital. In this same article, the Suns were ranked 30th in draft capital. That would put them worst in the NBA when it comes to the draft categorization of this survey as done by ESPN. Draft picks are just that. They're just draft picks. Having draft picks doesn't mean you automatically get Cooper Flagg. The Dallas Mavericks last year were more or less meh, and somehow got the first overall pick and got Cooper Flagg. All it is a lottery ticket. And so this idea, because the Suns don't have draft capital that's tradable, they still have first round picks. They're just not tradable. Just because the Suns don't have a multitude of picks, it truly doesn't mean anything. I hate to break it to you, but it doesn't. Do I have to remind you what selection Devin Booker was selected with? 13. Steve Nash, 13. Amari Stoudemire wasn't, a top 4 pick. And I want to make sure I have that correct because I'm instead of just, saying things, actually having some conviction in them. But as I say that, it makes me think that maybe I'm not right there, but I'm 95% sure I am correct when it comes to Amari Stoudemire's career as a Phoenix Sun. And so he was drafted 9th overall. Wasn't a 5th overall pick. The NBA draft is a crapshoot. And the Suns still have picks to make selections in the draft. The Suns are going to make selections in the first round over the next 10 years. It just might be at the back of the draft. Nikola Jokic was a 2nd round pick. Draymond Green was a 2nd round pick. Devin Booker was nearly a mid 1st round pick. Steve Nash, Amari Stoudemire. Just because you have a high pick doesn't mean immediate success. And that brings me to this. When people tried to tell me to trade Devin Booker and you'd get 5 first-round picks back, 5, that's amazing. Except what am I going to do with those 5 first-round picks? Try to find the next Devin Booker. Except I'll be doing it with the 27th, 28th, 30th overall pick because I gave Devin Booker over to another team. And that makes them better, not worse. So this idea that draft picks is such a crucial part to the Suns' success over the next couple of seasons, I'm here to tell you it isn't. Because the Suns aren't trying to win a championship within the next 2 seasons, or they're not going to. And so you use draft picks to go bring other good players to this team. And the Suns don't need to do that right now because they're not looking to try to bring a championship to Phoenix right now. And by the time all this is said and done, the Suns will have, control over their own draft picks. They'll be able to figure it out. And they'll be able to select players. But here's the other thing. The Suns will make selections in the first round over the next 7 seasons. It might just not look what it needs to look like, to accommodate you. But all the Suns have to do is land on 1 draft pick. All they have to do is get 1 star. And if they do that, nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. And if the Suns were to be able to do that, and if nothing else matters, then draft picks don't matter that much. They matter, but there's something that makes you feel better. They don't actually do anything. You want to know why I know it doesn't do anything? Because the Magic for years were drafting really high. The Wizards still are. The Hornets still are. The Nets still are. And all those teams are dysfunctional organizations. In the NFL, the Browns are always drafting high. Why aren't they getting any better? Because it's an organizational issue, not a player issue. Yeah, would it be nice to have more picks? Sure. But what I'm more interested in is the Suns growing up as a organization. Put your big boy pants on. Take your licks. Your aggressiveness didn't work. It doesn't mean it won't in the future. But just trading Devin Booker to get picks, to say you have picks, doesn't fix anything. And so that's just my last time talking about this for this offseason. Because I consistently see that. The Suns are cooked. They don't have any first-round picks. Okay. I see teams every year that have first round picks, and every year they're the same hot garbage. Having picks makes you feel better, but it doesn't actually do anything. And so with that being said, let's get to our final segment of the night. I want to talk about Jonathan Kuminga because I think I've completely flipped the script on this. Let's talk about it next. So in regards to Jonathan Kuminga, he is obviously still, fighting with the Warriors about a new contract, and the Suns have, been in discussions. They've reportedly offered him 4 years, $90 million, and only willing to give up a Grayson Allen, a Royce O'Neal, and a couple of second-round picks. So let's start back where I originally was for Jonathan Kuminga, just so we're, drawing our lines and crossing our T's and dotting our I's and connecting the lines. At first, I was anti-Jonathan Kuminga because I thought it was going to cost more picks, maybe Grayson Allen. And my point was, I'm willing to part with Oso Ighodaro. Gladly. I have no issues with that. But because the Suns don't have any picks really to trade, for a guy like Oso Ighodaro, who's a young player, who is serviceable, who can help another team, he has real trade value. And I don't want to just push him away at the first somewhat shiny new toy that becomes available to the Phoenix Suns. I don't want to do that. I think that would be a little rash for the Suns to do that. And then it kind of changed a little bit because I saw what the Suns could potentially be giving up, which is like Grayson Allen. Who was the other player? Grayson Allen. Was it Royce? Royce O'Neal, Grayson Allen. Let's just say it for that. And I had said to myself, well, if it's just Grayson Allen and Royce O'Neal and a couple of second-round picks, I'm getting rid of a couple of bad contracts. I'm getting a contract that I'm not sure is bad or good right now. And I'm giving up second-round picks that I couldn't really care less about because second-round picks are currency in the NBA. You could just go out and buy them for cash. And so I kind of bought into that idea because it felt like you were buying low on a stock that could absolutely explode in your favor. And so I was in on that. I was saying the Suns should go get Jonathan Kuminga. And then I thought about it. And this is my final Jonathan Kuminga take. Unless the Suns were handed Jonathan Kuminga and, on a really cheap deal, I think I'm just out on the Jonathan Kuminga experience in Phoenix. I cannot be, I guess I can be hypocritical, but I don't want to be hypocritical. What are some of the reasons that I'm worried about Jalen Green? He's an inefficient basketball player. And pairing him with Devin Booker, I just wonder how that's going to work. And then defensively, I think he can be better with this team. But will he stay engaged? Will he take the things that he learned from Houston and take him here to Phoenix? Why in the world would I have some of those concerns with Jalen Green, who's objectively right now not a very good contract? I think that's not super debatable at this point. And then why would I say double it and give it to the next person, which is still us? I think Jalen Green can be a really good player in this league. And I think he can be a really good player for the Phoenix Suns. But I think that is only going to happen if the Suns' sole focus is making Jalen Green the best player he can be, working with him, coaching him, dialing up plays for him, scheming the defense around him, scheming up offensive breakdowns for him against other teams. Once you add a lesser version of Jalen Green to the fold, in that being Jonathan Kuminga, I think you say to yourself, this doesn't make any sense. Because I have 2 reclamation projects now. Jonathan Kuminga can't shoot the 3. He can kind of get to the rim. And he's not a super efficient player overall. I think instead of trying to make both players the best they can be and split themselves 50-50 across both players. We'll scheme up some games here for Jonathan Kuminga. We'll scheme up some here for Jalen Green, and we'll just kind of figure it out that way. I think that's a recipe for disaster. I'm not saying I don't want Jonathan Kuminga, because I think he is a buy low stock that I think could shoot through the roof. But with that being said, I don't think he's going to shoot through the roof here in Phoenix, because he has a lot of the same issues Jalen Green has. And for a brand new head coach in Jordan Nott, with already a lot on his plate, he's a first-time head coach. He's trying to earn the respect of Devin Booker. He's trying to figure out a way to balance his time from being an actual coach and then sometimes being the CEO and let his other coaches coach for him. And then he kind of delegates and walks around and kind of CEO styles it. He's balancing all that stuff. And one of the biggest things he's balancing is this Jalen Green thing. I have this uberly talented player who led the second seed last year in scoring in the Western Conference. And I've got to figure out a way to make him a better, more efficient basketball player to pair him alongside Devin Booker so that this thing can be a success. Do I really want to add a facsimile or a lesser than version of Jalen Green in Jonathan Kuminga to the fold, who has some of a lot of the same attributes of Jalen Green, where you think he could be a really good player in this league? But do you want to focus on both those things? That's a lot to do. I'd rather the Suns focus use all of their attention and focus on Jalen Green. That's what I would do. Bringing Jonathan Kuminga into the fold, I just think it's a bad idea, because then at that point it becomes too many cooks in the kitchen. And side note, what the hell would that starting lineup look like? That starting lineup would be atrocious. It's what? Devin Booker, Jalen Green. You're definitely starting Jonathan Kuminga, Brian Dunn, and Mark Williams. Then you're running back a lot of the same problems that you had last season, which was you were too small, poor defensively, and other teams pushed you around and ran circles on you from an offensive standpoint. So I like Jonathan Kuminga. It's a fun story. It's a fun thought exercise. But I just think it's a bad idea. And I think for all those reasons, I think Suns fans could kind of agree with me a little bit more when it comes to that. I'm not saying I'm anti-Jonathan Kuminga, and I don't want him here in Phoenix. I think the kid could actually be a pretty good player in this league. But even if it was like a second-year coach or Mike Budenholzer or someone who was a little bit more established in the NBA that know what it takes to be a head coach, maybe I would then think differently. But I really want Jordan Nott to work out. And I don't want to throw another thing at Jordan Nott and say, hey, you know all the other things that you're dealing with? Now fix this as well. It just feels like that's a little too much to put on a first-time head coach's plate. So with that being said, guys, that's all I got for you tonight. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe to the show. Follow me on all social media platforms at Ben Garcia Show. For everyone in the chat, I appreciate you guys being here. Media Day is just a short week away. We'll dissect all those things coming up. And as well as we got a Pacific NBA Pacific preview show for you that I'm going to do roundtable style with a lot of the other guys over at the Locked On Podcast Network. Kings, Warriors, Clippers, Lakers. It's going to be a really good time, and I promise to throw some real haymakers at those guys. So be on the lookout for that as well. But again, don't forget to follow, share, subscribe to the show. Appreciate you guys being here each and every night. The season is just around the corner, and I know last year was hard, but this year is going to be a ton of freaking fun. This Suns team is young. They're vibrant. They're athletic. They're going to jump out of the gym. They might lose a lot of games, and that's okay, because we're going to find silver linings in a lot of it, because that's just the way this team is constructed right now. But until then, I'll see you guys tomorrow. For everyone in the chat, I'm Benjamin Garcia, and it's been Locked On Phoenix Suns.